Hello there, everyone. Welcome to another episode of the Managing Partners Podcast. I'm Kevin Daisey, and I'm your host. Always looking to bring you great guests. So if you're out there, you manage a firm, or you're another leader in the industry, whether that's in marketing, sales, coaching, whatever it may be, that can help these law firm owners and help them grow their firms. Love you to reach out to me. I'd love to have you on the show. You can always LinkedIn me and message me, and I'm happy to get to you. But we're always looking for great guests, and we have a great guest today. So we have Joshua Goldberg on the show, who I met through another friend of mine who's a law firm growth coach, does really great things out of the UK. He connected us and introduced us, and we had a good talk a few weeks ago. And now Joshua's on the show to share his story, talk about his firm and what they do and how they really specialize. And they really are specialists at what they do. So, Joshua, thanks for joining me on the show today.
Oh, thanks for having me, Kevin.
Excellent. And me and Joshua are both home today. We were just talking about that as, I guess, a benefit of the pandemic that I can work from home, go to the office. My internet was down in the office today. So I'm at home just as easily as I'm at the office. So Joshua's mostly at home as well. So if anything happens in the background, we can't control it. one of the cons.
I apologize in advance for any barking dogs.
Yeah, same here. And kids are home. It's summertime when we're recording this. So, but we make the best of it. So, Joshua, tell me your journey, your story, your background, and give the audience a little bit better idea of who you are, and then we'll how that frames up to your firm.
Absolutely. Glad to talk about that, Kevin. So who I am, as Kevin said, Joshua or Josh Goldberg. I answer to either, although it's usually my mother who calls me Joshua. I'm a native New Yorker, grew up on Long Island. When it was time to go to college, I went about as far away as my parents would let me go. Went to Washington University in St. Louis, so more or less halfway across the country. And I went out there to study chemical engineering. I've always been a science guy. The big choice when I went to university was, what science do I go into, not whether or not it's science or English or whatever it was. So I got my degree in chemical engineering, and I worked for a couple of years doing drug composition work. People always ask me what that means. So if you imagine big companies like Pfizer, Merck, all those big pharma companies that you know of, they develop these new drugs, whether it's for cancer, whether it's for treating stomach issues, what have you. And then they need to figure out how to actually get them to where they need to get to in the body. And that's the part I did. I figured out, I worked on how do you coat these drugs so they can pass through the stomach and get into the intestines. How do I put these drugs into a capsule or a tablet or a gel cap or whatever else it was. I learned an absolute ton doing that. Among the things I learned was that I was really not on this earth to be a bench chemist. So, I used to go home to my apartment at the end of every day, and my girlfriend at the time, who I was living with, now my wife, I would walk in the front door, and as soon as she got within, say, 10 feet of me, she would go, "Shower now. I stink of chemicals. You're giving me a headache." I was working with chemicals all day. How could I argue with her? So I did it. That wasn't the only reason, but it certainly didn't hurt. And I'd had a professor in university, not in my major actually, but he taught a class called the internal combustion engine, because I've always been a car guy also. And he liked to tell a story about his patent attorney buddy, who had his ranch out in Colorado with his private helicopter that he took there and his half dozen or so fancy cars. And I'm thinking to myself, well, gee, I'm a literate engineer. I could go to law school and have all those things, so why not give it a try? So that's what I did. I moved back to the East Coast, this time to Washington instead of New York. Went to law school at George Washington University in D.C.
Okay.
And after I'd been there for about 1 year, I got a job at a smaller little IP boutique firm, patent boutique firm, called, at the time, Nath and Associates. This was back in May of '97. Things were very different back then when you think of that, where we were computer-wise, technology-wise, all that.
Yeah.
Yeah. But I started, yep. But I started working there and I loved it. You know, from day one, I was writing patent applications and learning technologies and working with cancer drugs and things like that. And it screamed to me, yes, this is what you're going to be doing, right? This is your job. This is who you are. So I wrapped up, finished law school, passed my agent's exam at the patent bar, passed my regular bar exam to become a full patent lawyer. And I kept working at this firm. Went from being a summer intern, gopher, peon, whatever you want to call me, to now I'm one of the two owners of the firm. You know, the firm founder, Nath, Gary Nath, he retired some years ago. And now my partner, Jerry Meyer, and I, we own and run the firm ourselves. So clearly it's worked out for us.
That's an awesome story. I mean, I try to convey this to my employees, and I have about 30 at this point. That, you know, every time you have an intern or entry level person, you say, hey, you know, we want to create opportunity here, and that there's a path. And I think that's a hard thing to do in businesses, to act, you know, to show a path and have them clearly see that they have a future there for a long time. Mm-hmm. It's also easy, I think, to get caught up in the business, and then, you know, employees might not see that path, and you haven't really developed that path. Mm-hmm. But clearly for you, starting as an intern and now you're one of the owners, you know, that's quite a journey, and not always possible maybe, but I think as anyone listening, young partners or associates listening to the show, that's totally possible to do, depending on the firm and what their goals are. But that's a really cool story. And really quick, I'll just throw up the web address. It is kind of on the background there with Josh, and you can see that there. But it's Nath, it's nathLaw.com. So it's NATH law.com if you're listening on audio. So NATH law.com. Go check out the firm, see what they're all about, and then we're gonna have Josh tell us what they're all about here in just a moment as well. So really cool story, Josh. Showing that path from lowest level to the highest level. So pretty cool stuff. And I assume you're going to invite me out to your Colorado house with your plane and your car, right?
Well, I don't have that ranch out in Colorado. And I have to say, if I did have that private helicopter, my fear of heights tells me I probably wouldn't get into it. So I have no complaints regardless.
All right. Well, I invited you on the show to go to your ranch, but oh well.
I'll remember that for next year. Okay, Kevin? Okay.
All right. Put it on the list.
Got it.
Well, yeah. So let's talk more about your firm. So, you know, kind of heard your background and how you came up and the science of it all. What does the firm specialize? What is the real focus there, and what kind of clients are you helping, so that the other lawyers listening in the audience can understand what your firm's like? And then also, again, hopefully there's always referral opportunities within this community that someone says, you know what, I don't have someone like that, or I need that specialization, or maybe I have some referrals for them, for my clients. So tell us more about the firm.
Oh, absolutely. So we're a true boutique law firm. We're at about 30 people right now. All focused on intellectual property. If you're looking for somebody to do your trust and estate or help you with a personal injury case or anything like that, it's not us. I'll tell you that point blank. All we do, everything we do, has something to do with patents, trademarks, copyrights, and trade secrets. That's what we do day in and day out. And people come to us because they have something new or different, something they've created, whether it's a new invention or technology, a company name, a brand for a product, you know, a new work of art, whatever it is, they've done something new, and they want to make sure nobody can take it from them and claim it as their own. That's plain and simple what we do. We help protect whatever is innovative, whatever is different, that distinguishes you from everybody else out there. So what does that mean? It means you come to us and you say, hey, I've done X. What do I do to make sure it's mine? And we'll file a patent application for you. We'll get you your trademark registration, whatever it is. We'll make sure everybody in the world knows it's yours. not only here in the U.S., but we do it around the world too. That's
Okay.
a big focus of ours. Most people think, oh, I filed my patent application. I'm covered everywhere in the world. And it's not that easy. U.S. is a country, Canada is a country, Japan's a country. We each have our own national laws. If you want to have protection in every country, guess what? You need to file in those individual countries. And that's probably about half of our work, is how do we get things done around the world. Now, the part that we don't do as much, and I say this because it's just as important to know what we do and as what we don't do, we're not litigators.
I was about to add that if you didn't say it. So,
yep.
Because when we said last time, that was the big thing you said.
Yep. We're not litigators. In fact, I think that one of my jobs for my clients is to keep them out of court as much as possible. Now, depending on what they're doing, how they're doing it, what their marketplace is, it's not always possible, and everybody recognizes that. But if there's any way to avoid that and avoid that huge expense, especially if you're a smaller company, and I work with plenty of smaller companies, I see it as, doing a service to my client to avoid that expense for them. Especially if it means they come to some sort of licensing arrangement or sale or whatever, and they make money out of the deal.
Excellent. Yeah, so you keep them out of trouble. You don't get them out of trouble.
Correct. Absolutely. And, we all know sometimes clients like to do what they want to do regardless of the advice. And if they do, you know what? I'm there to help them anyway. Sure. That's okay too.
So you're defense, not offense, if possible.
Yes, if possible. That's right.
Excellent. I think that's what I like about it is you know what you want to do and what you don't want to do. You're very straightforward with that. You're very specific about it. And to me, that from a marketing perspective, whether or not you're doing active like broadcast marketing, but just how you represent yourself, and when someone refers you, they're going to say, here's what they do, here's what they don't do. And if they're looking for that, then you're the right fit for them. So I think it's good to have those, those boundaries set. So I think I see a lot of firms that just I'll talk to one person, like a 2-person firm, and they're like, well, we do this and that and this and this and this. And if you need this, we'll do that too. It's like, they can't be experts in all those things. There's no way.
No.
But I see as people mature, the more mature firms, they tend to, if they don't just go big and start adding practice areas, they usually tend to focus and specialize. I didn't specialize for years. We were afraid to do it. Like, we might not get work if we just say we only work with law firms. And so, it took us a while to do that. But when I start new companies, they're already niched, focused, all in. There's no as focused as you can get, as long as there's a market for it. So
that's always the rub, isn't it? You have to find somebody who's interested in what you're doing.
That's right. So that I love that about what you guys are doing. So you said around 30 folks. That's how many attorneys versus staff?
We're currently at about 13 attorneys, the rest staff. Well, I should say attorneys and patent agents, because we have a couple of those also. So they're not technically attorneys, but we treat them like attorneys.
Sure. And do they come from the patent office, or they have like inside knowledge?
We certainly have our share of ex-patent examiners. Actually, I think every patent agent at the firm was an examiner first. So yes.
So again, you got the insider track on what the processes are like, and timelines and turnaround. And I think that's always I've been part of the technology council in my area for a long time. And while most people are over my head with, their technology know-how and science and all that stuff, but I've been in a lot of conversations with patents and stuff like that. And we have NASA here and a lot of other things like that. So I helped build like a database years ago for ex-NASA engineers that were retiring, and all that knowledge was just kind of like going to the wayside. So we created a database where we were trying to take NASA engineers that were still fairly young. They were just retiring and they could go on and do something else. But we're trying to see how can we start companies by identifying an engineer with an idea or a patent,
Mm-hmm.
and then arrange them with a money person, a CFO, or a business person that could run it, and then try to form companies in our region and keep the economic development going here. So I got to learn a lot about those things, but it's always, how much does the patent cost? How long does it take? You know, that's the obvious question for everybody every time.
Yep.
What do you need to do to prepare for it? What do you have to have? And I don't know if I ever really got a clear answer from anybody, but I feel like it's always kind of an unknown for folks. So,
well, I can actually answer those questions.
Yeah. So to ask you, I guess, right while you're here, if I was going to file for a patent right now, maybe it depends on what it is.
Mm-hmm.
What's that process like? What's the turnaround like? What's the general cost of something like that?
Sure. So there are a few different moving parts and a few different options. They're going to impact both the cost and the timeline. But what I always tell people, unless they have an urgent deadline, you know, if something needs to be done tomorrow, it needs to be done tomorrow, and that's that. Aside from that, I always tell people it's best to start with a patent search, right? You want to see, before you file your patent application and go through all the expense and time and effort, do I actually have something that I invented or hasn't been done before? You know, just because you don't know that it's been done doesn't mean somebody else hasn't done it. So we start out with a patentability search just to see what's out there. What do we need to worry about? What else has been done that's similar? What's our path to getting you a patent? And we would typically charge about $750 for that. Our turnaround time from when we got started is usually, say, in the 2 to 4 week time frame. So if you came to me tomorrow, somewhere 2 to 4 weeks from tomorrow, I'd have a report for you that said, okay, yes, you do have an invention, or here are the things that you would need to consider, and then you would have an invention, things like that. Okay.
Okay. I mean, yeah, there's 7 billion people in the world. I assume there's a lot of information out there.
There sure is. And, you know, there are a lot of different kinds of patent searches you can do. This is kind of the easy one where we're looking for anything that's directly on point, right? Is there anything that's absolutely, truly going to block you getting a patent?
Gotcha.
Assuming we get past that stage, you know, we would most likely want to file a patent application for you. And most often we go straight to filing what we would call a regular utility patent application, something that would actually mature and turn into a patent. There are other options out there, but this is what most people are interested in. For most people, most companies, it's what makes the most sense. Generally, for us, that timeline is, say, 4 to 8 weeks from start to finish of starting to work on the patent application and getting it on file at the patent office. Then once we do that, there are 2 options. Option 1 is you do nothing, you file it normally, and you'll probably get through the process in 2 to 4 years. And yes, it is 2 to 4 years.
2 to 4 years, everyone. Okay.
Yeah.
For all you attorneys out there with inventions, it's going to take a little while.
It's going to take a little time. Now, I can tell you, I can get you through the process within 1 year. Okay. It's going to cost you a little extra money. You have to pay more money to the government because, as we all know, it's a government entity. They like their collecting their fees.
Pay to play.
You pay to play. You got it. But if you pay extra money, it's about $2,400 if you're a smaller company, about $6,000 if you're a bigger company. You go to the front of the line, and you can actually get through the process in 1 year. Now, does that mean you're guaranteed to get a patent? Of course not. I can't guarantee that for anybody for any reason. But I can guarantee by the end of that year, you'll know where you stand. Okay. Now,
seems reasonable, I guess, especially, you know, if that patent's very important to your product, your business. So that seems fairly reasonable. And then, of course, you got to pay you.
And then you got to pay me. That's right. So to prepare and file a patent application, you're usually looking at somewhere between $5,000 and $15,000, depending on the technology and the complexity. You know, if it's a simple device, a widget or something, it's closer to the $5,000 end of the spectrum. If you're talking about a complicated biotech invention, you're getting closer to the $15,000 end of the spectrum. And, it could be anywhere in between depending on who you are and what you do.
Interesting. Makes sense to me.
Yep. And then if you're interested, we talked about it a little bit. I didn't want to forget to bring it up again. If you're interested in protection around the world, you have to do more things to file around the world. Generally, within 1 year, whenever it is you first file at the patent office, you need to do something to either file around the world or protect your rights around the world through what's called a PCT, Patent Cooperation Treaty application. And of course, whenever you do something, it's going to cost a little money. So you're going to have to budget for all of these things.
Interesting. Well, I guess so. That's helpful. I mean, I think having an update on that for myself anyway, hopefully others listening that maybe dabble in other investments or whatever they may be. For the law firms listening, the managing partners and people that work at law firms, what should law firms themselves, so say I'm a personal injury firm or a divorce firm, what things should I be protecting for the firm? Maybe I have, copyrights of my own or processes or things like that. But what can other law firms that don't specialize in your field, what should they be protecting? Is there certain things that they should be thinking about as they grow their firms?
Yep. So no matter what, if you own a business or operating a business or running a business, I can pretty much guarantee you have a business name that you use so that if people want to find you, if they want to find Array Digital, Kevin, they can find Array Digital, right?
Yes.
You can trademark that name so that nobody else can pretend they are the same business as you. If people want to work with you as Array Digital, they look for Array Digital and they find you. Getting a trademark on that name helps you stop others from competing that way. Now, if they want to call them something else and do the same thing as you, hey, this is America. We're all for free and open competition here, but it has to be free, fair, and open competition, not stealing from somebody else.
Sure.
Same thing if you have a logo that you use. You can protect that logo. If you have any special product that has its own name, you can protect that also. So these are the low-hanging fruit that just about any company can protect. Now, when you get to law firms and managing partners of law firms, do you have any specific documents you use that you can copyright so nobody else can offer your same documents out there? You don't want anybody using your materials. Copyright it, copyright protect it, and then nobody else can copy them. They might be able to summarize and make a derivative work, but they can't use your stuff. That's the
I can see that with I've seen a lot of firms these days that are they're growth mode firms. They're going from city to town to town to town, and we have some clients like that. And they're obviously there to compete, and they're going to be bumping heads with other firms that probably be like, hey, where'd they come from, and what are they doing, and how are they doing that? And you can think easily to get a hold of, hey, it'd be nice to get if we could get some of their material or see like what they're doing for sales, and that makes a lot of sense to want to protect those things, especially if you're causing noise in a market.
Yep.
I would think that's something you want to protect for sure.
Yep. 100%. Now, there's nothing that's foolproof. Like I said, can somebody make a derivative work and get around copyright protection by making their own version? Of course they can. There's no way to stop anybody and everything. But you want to make sure that people recognize you as an innovator for what you've innovated, and that they come to you as, if nothing else, the original. You're the OG. You're the one that everybody should come to.
Yeah, I love that. Yeah, that's awesome. And obviously every firm should be developing their own processes and their own systems, and there's a lot of things that go off of. There's a lot of books that I follow. There's a lot of people you learn from. So a lot of folks do the same way. But I think as you're developing your own customized processes and you want to sell the firm one day, and okay, we have all these systems and processes. The owners aren't needed anymore. Like you have something there worth protecting for sure.
Absolutely. And one way that can be counterintuitive, and a lot of people don't think about it, you don't actually file to protect anything, but you keep it as a trade secret. right?
Oh.
So you keep it under lock and key. You only let certain people at your firm access those pieces of knowledge, so that, you know, it is a secret. It gives you a business advantage. Nobody else can take it from you. It can last forever as long as you can keep it secret and as long as you can use it. But the key there is you have to be able to keep it secret, because once that secret is gone, guess what? It's gone. There's no getting it back.
No, not these days.
No, absolutely not. You know, and if anybody follows litigation among some of the big tech companies, you know, Google and Waymo have been in huge trade secret litigation out in California about driverless cars. Tremendous. Because, you know, some people leave one company, go to another, and do they take everything they learned? And is that stealing the trade secret?
Sure.
Depending on the contracts and what they actually took with them and what they knew, it might be. It might not be. I don't know. But that's what
companies like that would have non-competes against going to this other company. But
that's right. But again, you're talking about California. In California, non-competes
don't mean anything.
Tough to enforce. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm in Virginia. I think they're not enforceable. You can still have one, but
yeah,
I don't think they're enforceable. So what's the point?
Exactly.
Well, that's all very interesting. So yeah, for any lawyers listening out there, yeah, if you're doing something different, you know, in your market or the way you price things or the way, you know, and in some states you can do things differently. Some law firms are kind of, depending on what state you're in, you're kind of stuck with how you do things. But I see a lot of cool firms doing, you know, fixed rate and flat fees and all kinds of cool stuff. They're all technology driven. They're 100% remote. Just doing some really cool things. And you know, if you're scaling a firm across the country into different markets, then you're going to definitely call some attention to yourself. So think about the things that you need to protect.
And I'll tell you what, not just for you and your firm, but you know, I'm out there talking with people a lot. I network, and you know, over the past 3 years with the pandemic and all that, I've been on more Zoom meetings than I can count with people I either knew or have met and learned. A lot of people don't know what they should be asking their clients or what keywords they should pick up on when their clients say something that, hey, I can bring a value add to the people I'm working with and for. And clients love it. Even if you don't get to keep that work for yourself, clients love that you're thinking about them.
100%.
That you're looking out for them. And, you know, anytime you have someone you're working with come to you and say, yeah, I'm doing something new. I have this new product line, something like that. Your ears should pick up, oh, something new. What have you done to protect it? What have you done to make sure you don't have competition?
Yeah, good point. And I know for my clients, I try to, when they do come to me, sorry, which I hope they do, and especially if they're local, you know, sometimes, hey, who do you use for your accounting firm? Who does your business contracts? You know, you want to be that resource to your clients. And I think having that, you know, your ears open and awareness to say, hey, it looks like you guys are, you know, a little shaky on your finances and reporting. Like, do you need, you know, a CPA or someone I can recommend to you? But I think that's, as lawyers, or especially if you're business attorneys that don't do this certain work, then keeping your ears open, I think, is, and making those recommendations is great. So.
Absolutely. And I can only speak from personal experience. Whenever I've helped a client with something like that, it's always not only helped the client and really, you know, done something important for them, but it's made me look good, and it's made them want to keep coming back to me for whatever it is they have going on.
Oh, sure. And referrals, you know, they're going to appreciate that. So I know for me, like I get referrals here and there, and from clients, from attorneys, and they're not always a good fit, but I always take the call.
Yep.
I always talk with them, and I tell the referrer what's going on. Hey, I talked with them. They weren't a good fit for us, but we referred them to these other companies that I trust and have worked with before. And let them know. I think the worst thing is when you refer someone to somebody and then you never hear anything. And then maybe a year or two goes by. Oh yeah, we've been working with them. You know, they didn't, didn't tell you or let you know or nothing like that. So I think just I'm always like, I'll talk to them and I'll help them either way. And that might be saying, hey, you can't afford us or we're not the right fit. And I think most people, they don't, I've literally heard tons of people say, oh, I don't want all those referrals because I don't want to turn them down. Or they feel like they have to take the work on. Like, no, you don't have to do that at all. Like, stick to what you do, be clear with them. And if they're not a fit, that's okay.
Absolutely. Couldn't agree more.
And I think as early on, either attorneys or even me, you want to take on everything, right? And you're trying to figure out just how to make $1 at the first couple of years. But it's better just to stick to what you know. And that's going to be better for the client as well. If you're not knowledgeable and you're trying to wing it, or, try to figure it out, then it ends up being bad. And that gets back to the referrer. That's your friend or whoever. Yep. So just don't do it. Pass it on to someone else.
So absolutely. And, I go by the position, if I can't do it well, I don't want to do it because that's my name. That's my reputation on the line there. It's just as easy to say, hey, how about talking with this other person and not ruining anything?
I think that's a great idea. And I had a guest on the show not too long ago. He's personal injury and he does litigation, but he no longer does this. James Grant. He no longer does it for consumers or individuals. He just is the back office litigation for other personal injury firms. And so a lot of personal injury firms don't litigate. They just they settle. And if they need to litigate, they refer it to someone else or they just don't touch it. His business model, he's actually being I'll litigate for you. He gets a fee, they get a fee. But he takes care of their clients. And they get to continue to serve that client. But now they're not trying to litigate when they're not really good at it or have the funds to do it, and they're bringing them in. So I think it's a pretty cool business model. But
no, that's a really interesting business model. I haven't heard that one before, but I could see how that would actually really work.
So he now markets to just personal injury firms instead of marketing to me and you as individuals getting hurt in a car accident.
Right.
Which we know takes a lot of money to do.
Oh, yeah.
To have that marketing machine and advertising. Well, now he just has to knock on the door of each personal injury firm. And that's a lot easier to do. So.
Yep. Fully agreed. No, that's great because it also shows that he knows who he is and he feeds right into that.
Yeah. So it's a good example, I think, though, of, staying in your lane and doing what you do best. And so it'd be like you finding like a litigation partner, like we don't litigate. We just keep you out. And if you need litigation, I'm sure you refer them to someone else. So
absolutely. It's something we've done more times than I can count, quite frankly.
All right, cool. I'm going to start a litigation business, intellectual property litigation.
There you go. Well, when you do, just let me know and I'll be right there with you, Kevin.
When I go to law school first, I'll let you know.
All right. Fair enough.
I don't think I'm going to make it out. So, well, Josh, I appreciate you coming on to share your story and what you guys are all about. I love how you're focused. You know what you want to do. You've been successful. What's kind of the plans for the firm? What's your growth or strategic positioning, anything like that?
Sure. So, for a long time now, we've been very much focused on organic, slow growth. We have had periods of rapid growth before, and they're interesting. You eventually run into problems one way or another when you go through rapid growth like that. Some of the problems can be good, not all of them, but you are going to have problems. So we've really been focused on that slow growth. I have to tell you, this year, I've been as busy as I can ever remember being. And I'm in the process of hiring 1 or 2 people through that slow growth because suddenly the work has come in. And I'm a firm believer is you get the work first and then you figure out how you're going to do it. I don't want to pay people to be sitting on the bench for long periods of time. So I have the work now. Now I'm bringing in people to get it done. And then once I have those people in and we can kind of calm and settle down, then I'll be able to focus on the next thing.
I think that's great. I mean, yeah, to your point, if you want to be that fast-paced scaling growth, there's a lot of challenges that come with it. And yeah, so if you're in that mode, you're young enough to be in that mode, or whatever it may be. You could be 70 and be in that mode, I guess. But it comes with challenges you have to be prepared for, and you're either excited about those problems and challenges, because problems are good things, right? It means you're growing.
That's right.
Or like you're saying, predictable, slow growth, and really knowing where you want to be, I think is also a really good place for you to be. So,
absolutely.
But no growth is not good.
And I've had no growth periods before, and I got to tell you, it's not fun.
Yeah.
You're looking around like, what do I do now? I don't know. Let's try something else because this isn't working.
Yeah. So as long as you're growing, that's good. You don't have to grow as fast as everyone else if you don't want to.
Right.
Do it the way you want to do it. And it's funny, I know a lot of folks that they have plans for crazy growth and these crazy ideas, and you got the ones that are just very well organized and stick to their good work, put their head down, and they grow faster than they planned on, and it's just doing good work and having processes in place and things like that. So, and I was like, hey, how they do that, and it's not always that clear, but but the ones that set out to do it don't always accomplish it. And so you don't want to be, I guess, too blind, or what's the saying? You can't see the forest for the trees.
Yep.
So you might be focused on growing, but you're not, there could be things out of whack, or your work's not being done properly, or, you're not focused on all the core areas you need to focus on. So
absolutely. Yeah.
You got to be careful.
Yep. And I've lived some of those hard lessons. So it's okay to make mistakes. It's less okay to make a mistake a second time.
All right. There's your tip for the day.
There you go.
Don't make a mistake the second time.
That's right.
And if you have something to protect, copyright, trademark, business name, law firm, processes, whatever it may be, protect yourself. I think one of the things I've talked to with a few different intellectual property attorneys is always the sooner the better, because if you're out there, you're like, well, and everyone wants to say, well, let me just put this out there and see, how it's accepted. And, you're kind of doing a lot of damage there if it does become something that takes off and you haven't protected it.
Yep.
Right.
No, I couldn't agree with that more. The sooner the better is always right. And especially if you do have a new invention, a new technology, if you wait until you get it out there and either you start selling or you publish or whatever it is, you're doing a real disservice, because you might make it so you can't protect what you've done, depending on how long it's been and how long it's been out there. So don't wait. Please don't wait.
Okay, awesome. All right, well, Josh, I appreciate all the information, and as far as, patents and intellectual property, and then again, your firm and how you guys have come a long way and where you are now. So I think it's great what you're doing. It seems like you have it under control, and just appreciate you sharing. So everyone, please connect with Josh. The website, again, is below here on your screen. Another way you can connect with him, we connected on LinkedIn, I believe. So you can just look up Joshua Goldberg. He's in Brooklyn, New York. And I'm sure he would be happy to connect back with you and have a discussion. So, Josh, anything else you want to share before we go?
No, just Kevin, I really appreciate your time. I really appreciate being here, and it was a lot of fun talking with you.
Yeah, always. I love these chats, and just like to see where they go, and just have fun conversation. I love business. I love talking to attorneys about their business, and so I could do this all day. So. Again, I do appreciate you coming on. I think we connected through John McCarthy.
That's correct. Sure did.
He's a great guy, law firm growth coach out of the UK. Works with a lot of firms over there in Europe. And he connected us. So, get out there, connect, talk to people, connect with Josh. And hopefully there can be some referral partnerships established through this episode. And that's it. So everyone else, we'll see you soon. Thank you for joining us for another episode, and we'll get you on your way. We'll see you guys later.
Thank you so much, everyone. I hope you enjoyed listening.